So, conditions of fasting. We've spoken a bit about intention. You have to have an added intention. Scholars differ. Could you have one intention for the whole month? Okay, or does it for each day? In the end, you're going to have an intention. It's very difficult not to have an intention. How are you not going to, the whole vibe of everyone's fasting in Ramadan, how on earth, I'm not fasting, I'm not fasting, I'm not fasting. That's the only way you cannot have a fast, I think. Okay, so the intention is you ask someone why they're doing something and they know why they're doing it. That's what intention is. So puberty, obviously we spoke about the issues of that. Once reach puberty, it's obligatory for them to fast. That's why they should fast before puberty to get into the habit of it. What I say to the children at school, I say if they reach puberty, start the fast. Once you get really dizzy, you're struggling through the day, it's permissible for you to break it. There's no kafara on that, because the kafara is where you're doing it nonchalantly with complete disregard for the day. If you're getting to a point where you can't function, it is permissible for you to break the fast. So encourage the children to start the fast and see what they do, because a lot of it's just dhann, it's just assumption. I won't be able to fast. So have a go and see how far you can go. And usually after a few days, sometimes you'll find it's not an issue whatsoever. Other people will struggle.
Would you then do that every year, even though every year, for example, if someone's quite weak, they know that?
No, once you become aware of your metabolism, and you really just can't function whatsoever, you maybe do it like the first few days again to just test it, how are you now? But once you get the knowledge, then it's permissible not to fast, okay? Yeah, they talk about people who work in fields and stuff, they literally can't carry their work out. And I saw that in Morocco. I saw people selling on the streets in boiling heat, and they're literally breaking their fast. They were falling all over the place. So when you're in that state, it's perfectly permissible to break your fast. You have to make it up, but there's no penalty, kafara, the 2 consecutive months fast.
I had a question about it's kind of related to that. I didn't start praying until I was a bit older.
Yeah.
So how do I calculate how much?
Okay, we're going to talk about that. Yeah. Sanity, and that's pretty straightforward. You've got to be sane to fast. Okay. A woman is not on her period, so when a woman's on her period, it's haram for her to fast. She eats, but they don't recommend. It's considered disliked for them to organise little parties. So are you fasting? No, I'm not. Come on, let's all go over and have. That's considered disliked because there's an element of respect for the month. So if you're not fasting, so when a woman comes on her period, she should eat something. When she comes off her period in the middle of the day, she should refrain from eating. Does that make sense, the distinction? If someone's travelling and they decided not to fast and then they get back home in the middle of the day, they should refrain from eating it, out of respect for the day, because they're no longer a traveller, so they don't have the dispensation. Okay? If we'll speak about that, but if you fast and you break your fast accidentally, and we'll speak about that, it doesn't mean, oh great, now I can start eating now because that fast wasn't valid. No, out of respect for the day, you still have to refrain from eating. And so, that's why, something that was good about the elders, they wouldn't let their kids eat in public, would they? Like back then. Now there's this element of truth to that, is that you should get your kids used to respect for the month of Ramadan. It's not any haram or halal issue here. It's just about a sense of attitude towards it. This is a sacred month. Healthy. Obviously, you need to consult your doctors on that issue. And we're going to talk about women who are breastfeeding or women who are pregnant and so forth. So, a healthy person, let me just make... So, a woman is on a period. Yeah, I said that. If she's really struggling, you can... Yeah, a woman on istihada still fasts. So, if a woman's on a period and she's gone past her 10 days, according to the Hanafi school, it's 15 days for other schools, but the Hanafis it's 10 days. So she's gone for 10 days. If there's any bleeding after that, she has to fast. That's not, she's not on a period anymore. Okay. Breastfeeding. I've consulted people about this issue, breastfeeding pregnant women, and people who are midwives and who are learned in the religion, and they say at this time of year you shouldn't be fasting. That's the ruling. Okay. I know the fiqh ruling is that if you can fast, you need to be fasting. Okay. But I've consulted practitioners and they said they shouldn't. In the end, you have to consult. Each individual should consult someone. I understand that sometimes people who are professionals don't want to get any flack back So they always take a really precautionary position. But I've spoken to people who aren't going to get that flack, and they're saying no, they should fast. They shouldn't be fasting if they're pregnant or they're breastfeeding. Okay, but in the end, it's down to the individual to get a bit of advice. If they still say no, I want to fast, just to consult people. Okay, and be aware of your body. Tune into your body, and be aware of when your body's really struggling. And of course they have to make that up, okay? So women who are pregnant, women who are breastfeeding, they have to make that up. I know that's a real issue for some women who have had babies after babies. It becomes really difficult because that's years, and so they do what they can. So, you know, in the summer, winter, so you see if it's winter days and they're pregnant and breastfeeding, it's probably they could fast, to be honest, because it's the winter. Again, they should consult a professional about that issue. And so they should try to fast in those days if they can. But the ruling is that they don't pay fidya. This is a mistake. People have misconception. They think, I'm ill, so I'm just going to pay a day for it and I don't have to make it up. No, fidya, i.e. paying a day when you're ill and not making it up, is only for people who have chronic illnesses. So say you're an asthmatic and you think you'll never recover from your asthma, okay, and you're having to use your asthma throughout the day, you can't hold off, and there's a whole issue about asthma, does it break fast or not? But the precautionary position is it does break fast, okay? And then they just pay fidya for each day, which is about equivalent of zakat al-fitr. Yeah, 2 kilograms of wheat, it's about probably 3-4 quid, okay? And they can pay that at the beginning of the month, the whole thing, or at the end, they can do it, they give it to one person, the whole thing. It'd be better to give it to different people, but they have options there. Okay, so people with diabetes, so we're talking about health, we know that syringes, according to this difference of opinion on this, the Hanafis say that syringes do not break fasts. Okay, so if someone was diabetic and they only use syringes, they could fast theoretically. But I was just, type 2, that's well controlled, or on oral meds, diet controlled, it's okay, I think he was saying here. I don't know anything about diabetes, so I was just going off something that someone was talking about. In the end, you need to consult your practitioner about that. But meds, but obviously a lot of diabetes, it's oral as well anyway, so that you couldn't fast. Need to consult someone. Yep, Omar.
I was trying to ask about diabetes because if you are type 1 in the situation,
Yeah.
in that there's still management. So my sister's diabetic type 1.
Yeah.
You can't actually keep fast this long because you still need to
Eat.
as well.
Yeah. Well, that's the best case. Yeah.
So she's not going to be able to keep food.
Yeah.
She's not going to be able to keep food
Yeah.
for long term either.
Yeah. So she pays a fidya for each day. So basically, the question is that this woman, she is basically having to take syringes, but she has to eat as well because she's type 1. So yeah, she doesn't see herself ever recovering from it, and so she has to pay a fidya for each day. Yeah, which is about £3 for each day. Does that answer your question? Yeah. So consult, if a diabetic, some of these uncles and aunties are hardcore. They fast regardless, but that could become haram on them. And what they have to, because if you're hurting your health, it's haram. And what you've got to realise as well, Ramadan's not just about fasting. Ramadan's one aspect. And a lot of people, it's this all or nothing attitude, isn't it, that we have in the community. If you haven't got a fist-length beard, shave it off. If you're not wearing a scarf, don't pray. You know, this sort of attitude. The idea is that you can benefit from Ramadan even if you're not fasting. You give charity, and that's the fidya itself. It's because you can't fast, you're getting the reward of someone breaking their fast with that food. Okay, with the fidya for feeding a poor person. You can do tarawih. That's a misconception in our community. You can't pray tarawih if you're not fasting. Have you heard that one? Okay, I've got this book of like Pakistani like wife tales. I'm gonna make my millions out of it. All the little stories that yeah. The funniest one ever was that if someone's in a state of janaba, they najify whatever they touch. So there's this one brother, he had a wet dream in itikaf. They carried him out of the mosque so his feet weren't touching the floor. And like, how humiliating. In this t-shirt, I just had a wet dream. You might as well just wear the t-shirt. So, there are some hilarious ones, honestly. So, yeah, so now the Malikis say anything that gives you nutrition breaks your fast. The Hanafis say it has to reach your stomach. So that's why in the Hanafi school, they considered, there's a bit of a debate about this now though, is like depositories, they break your fast because you're inserting them into the anus. Anything like a full finger into the anus or something that was wet, that would break your fast according to the traditional position. But I don't think that would, I think medically now, I don't think they consider that reaching you. I think a depository, I don't know, is there any doctors in the house? But the other schools wouldn't consider that as breaking your fast. The Hanafis have something about that. Ear, it doesn't break your fast. The funniest one I ever had was, I had a contact lens, because they say, people say about surma, don't they, about kuhul, if you put it, and you close your eyes and you can taste it, okay? Does that break your fast? It would break your fast if that happens, but is there a connection between the eye and the throat? Well, something really weird happened to me once. I'm convinced this happened, everyone else says it couldn't have happened. I had a contact lens and it ran around the back of my eye, and a few hours later I found it in my throat. Yeah, I coughed it up, my contact lens. Now, everyone says that's impossible. Well, that happened to me, so it's one of my karamas. Okay, the one miracle that I can convert. So that would break your fast if you swallowed it. So residents, so if you're a traveller, you don't have to fast. There's an issue about this though. You have to travel on the first day before Fajr. So here I am in Little Keighley, and I'm going to travel that day. Now, if I pass, I've got to get out of Keighley before Fajr comes in. So you have to have your intention before but you have to be a traveller at the time of intention for you to not fast that day. Does that make sense? So the other days, once you become a traveller, yeah, you can make the choice. But it's the first day that's an issue. Now, some people have an issue with this because they're saying, you know, if you're on a really long plane journey and stuff like that, and you know, you're Fajr time, before Fajr you're going to be at home. So what I say to that is, just make the intention to fast, and when you get to the point where you're struggling and you can't function, okay, you've got headaches and you can't, just drink something and that's fine, that's perfectly fine, and there's no kafara for that. And then we say coming back in the middle of the day. So for the days that you're a traveller after that first day, you can make that choice whether you want to fast or not. There's more merit, there's a difference of opinion about this, but there's more merit in fasting, of course. Okay.